Hey guys, Dominic from Genuine Assholes, and Halloween is just a couple of days away, and I am doing my part 2 video of the worst to best of the 3 major horror franchises, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween. If you didn't see my first part, go back and take a look at Friday the 13th, worst to best, where I rate the 10 original films in the series. I will not be counting the remakes in any of these lists, and Freddy vs. Jason will also not be in either the Jason list or the Freddy list because it's kind of an honorable mention. So today we're jumping into my second favorite horror franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street, starring none other than Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. I love the Nightmare series, and the Friday the 13th series I had a couple of I love it, I hate it. This series I love it, even though there are some bad films. So let's talk a little bit about those. Let's jump into my worst to best of Nightmare on Elm Street. There are 7 films in the Nightmare series, so let's jump right in and start. At number 7, the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film is, drumroll, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. This movie is fucking terrible. Even the title sucks. I don't like any of the characters. They're so, as the series goes on, they become like so disconnected. Such cliche characters. This has nobody I care about, although it has a couple of characters from Elm Street 4, which I do like. But this one just either wastes them or just makes them annoying. Then there's kind of like this thing with the baby and this Freddy baby. And although the effect is cool, it doesn't save this movie. I guess there are some cool kills. I particularly like the comic book kill and the food kill. You know what I'm talking about. Even though I think it was heavily cut down, it's a decent kill. If there's one film in this series that is avoidable, it's this one. Moving on. The number 6 on my list is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, but it wasn't called Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6. It was called Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, because we have to sell tickets. This movie just does not do it for me. It has a couple of good moments. It has a cameo from Johnny Depp, who had his debut performance in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It also has that guy from Rat Race, Breckenmeyer. Is that his name, Breckenmeyer? I think that's him. He's in there in one of his first roles. And there's a couple of good kills, but overall this movie is not the goodbye to Freddy we wanted, although it is slightly better than Elm Street 5. At this point, the movie just wasn't making the same money, and the quality was going down, so New Line decided, hey, let's say goodbye to Freddy, and what better by doing the last 10 minutes of this film in 3D, which doesn't really add anything. The ending of this film is very anticlimactic, and when you watch other previous entries, particularly like Elm Street 3 and 4, there's a better death of Freddy than in this movie, and this is supposed to be like the final one, so what the hell happened there? There's a slew of awkward cameos. The Johnny Depp one I said, then there's like Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold there and there, Alice Cooper's in there. I guess this movie's worth watching. Number 5 on my list is Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now, some people would say, hey, why don't you put that piece of shit at the bottom of the list? I don't know. I kind of have a guilty pleasure thing for this movie. It's weird, and it doesn't follow any of the rooms of the Elm Street series. Freddy comes out of dreams. He takes over a guy's body, who this guy may or may not be gay. I don't know. There's a lot of homosexual undertones. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This movie, though, I like the effects. I personally like the way Freddy looks in this movie versus the other movies, because they do a different design than the original Nightmare, but he's actually kind of scary. This is one of the only movies where I think he's like really freakish, you know, and he peels his head back and he's, you got the body, I got the brains. He does that thing. It's a lot of fun. He comes out of the dreams at one point and kills a bunch of people at a barbecue. That's fun. And yeah, I like this movie. I mean, not the best Elm Street, but definitely not the worst either. Next up on my list is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Now, this takes a couple of people from Part 3, a recasted part that Patricia Arquette played, And this movie is basically, I feel, the same movie as Part 3, but it is enjoyable, and the characters are fairly likable, so this movie, it's not a total bust. Freddy becomes the cartoon character that he is in the rest of the series at this point. This is where he's like on t-shirts and fucking saying one-liners, and he's on a beach at one point in this movie, like with sunglasses. It's weird. He also kills another girl or a guy as like a meatball off a slice of pizza. There's a lot of weird shit going on, but who could forget the classic Roach Motel scene? That scene's cool. There's a lot of creative kills in this and a lot of creative dream sequences, and that's what we've come to love from the Elm Street series, so this definitely deserves the number 4 spot. The number 3 spot goes to Wes Craven himself. Rest in peace, the creator of Nightmare on Elm Street, the creator of Freddy Krueger. And this is not for the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but this is for the final one. Not counting Freddy vs. Jason, of course. This is Wes Craven's new Nightmare. Now this was the final straight up Freddy movie, and what they did here, what Wes Craven did, was genius. He said, hey, I'm not going to take all these other shitty sequels and continue after them. I'm going to go back to what I started and do something completely unique. This is a different Freddy. This is Robert Englund again, but it's a whole new design, because in this movie, Freddy is just a character. Freddy, in this movie, Nightmare on Elm Street is a movie, and the Freddy character comes out of the movie and haunts the actors and haunts Wes Craven and haunts Robert Englund. And it's fucking bizarre, but it's such a good idea. And Freddy, yet again, is scary. And he's got an awesome kind of Nosferatu look going when he's like walking with the shadow and the glove is like growing out of his hand. You got Miko Hughes, that little kid from like Kindergarten Cop. You know the one, the little kid from Pet Sematary. He's in there. Heather Langenkamp returning, playing a dual role, if you will, herself and Nancy. John Saxon back in there. And a nice slew of cameos as well. This movie is one of my favorites still to this day. Next on the list, the number 2 movie is, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. What's not to love about this movie? This has the right amount of scary, the right amount of funny, and the right amount of just awesome dream sequences. You have these kids in a mental institution? I don't remember, but these kids all have problems sleeping. Then you got Heather Langenkamp's Nancy coming in trying to help them. You got Patricia Arquette in one of her earlier roles. You also got fucking Larry Fishburne in there, also known as Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus himself. He's in an early role. And this movie is, like I said, it's a nice blend of comedy and horror. And Freddy has the one-liners. You know, he's got the smashing your head through a TV screen saying, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." But it's also got those moments that are like, oh man, that's creepy, you know? And actually, Frank Darabont was actually a co-writer on this movie of Shawshank and Green Mile and Walking Dead fame. And this is one of his earlier screenplays. This cemented Freddy as a pop culture icon. And when people picture Freddy, this is basically the Freddy they picture. The fun, cracking jokes, stabbing you in the heart Freddy. So Robert Englund, top of his game at this movie, and really brought something new to the character at this particular time. The number 1 film on my list, of worst to best, is of course the original Nightmare on Elm Street. You want to talk about creative, you want to talk about something new and different. Well, hail Wes Craven. He came up with this idea based upon some articles he read about a teen dying in his sleep and a creepy guy he saw when he was a kid. And voila, we have Freddy Krueger, this red and green sweater wearing freak who kind of might have molested children. Yeah, there's some backstory there that he might have molested children. They changed it a little bit for the movie and just made him a child killer. But this is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It still holds up to this day. There's some effects that have gotten a little but most of them still hold up, particularly the upside down fucking ceiling drag and a lot of that stuff, a lot of cool sequences. Johnny Depp in there in his first role, I believe. He wasn't even in anything before this. He's young, he dies, spoiler alert, and a lot of other people die. But this is definitely still a creepy movie and one of my go-tos when I gotta watch a good horror movie. And Robert Englund introducing Freddy to us. He's creepy, and he deserves to be up there with the rest of the classic movie monsters. So guys, what did you think of my Nightmare on Elm Street worst to best list? Do you agree with it? Would you change a couple of things around? Is Freddy not particularly your favorite movie monster? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Check out my other videos. Check out my sketches. Check out the Friday the 13th worst to best video I did. And stay tuned for my upcoming Halloween worst to best so you can get in the Halloween spirit, guys. Subscribe and thanks for watching.